The screech of my tires didn't even wake the neighborhood. But the sight of that oversized white SUV parked dead center across my driveway sent my heart into a violent, rhythmic thrashing against my ribs. My 3-year-old daughter was gasping for air in the back seat, her face turning a terrifying shade of porcelain blue while I screamed at the steering wheel in a vacuum of pure panic. Why on earth would someone park here? Of all places? Knowing this is a shared cul-de-sac and I have a clear no parking sign bolted to the brick? The air inside the car felt heavy, smelling like stale Cheerios and the sharp, metallic tang of fear. I lunged out of the driver's side, my boots hitting the asphalt with a dull thud that echoed off the silent suburban houses. I ran to the front door of the house next door, slamming my fist against the mahogany wood until my knuckles burned. Mrs. Gable, the self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association, the woman who once measured my grass with a literal ruler, finally cracked the door open with a look of supreme boredom. Can you believe she actually had the audacity to check her gold watch before looking me in the eye? Move your car right now, I choked out, my voice cracking under the weight of a sob I couldn't let out yet. Lily can't breathe. It's an allergic reaction. Please just move it, Mrs. Gable didn't move an inch, instead crossing her manicured arms over her silk robe and letting out a long, theatrical sigh that made my blood boil. Honestly, Sarah, she droned with that nasal, high society whine that felt like sandpaper on a wound. Your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency for me. I'm right in the middle of my evening tea and I've already told you that the street sweepers were coming, so I had to park somewhere safe. I felt a cold shiver of disbelief wash over me. Was she serious? Was this woman actually prioritizing a cup of Earl Grey over a child's life? I looked back at my car where Lily's small hand was pressed against the glass, her eyes wide and pleading. The sound of the wind whistling through the oak trees seemed to mock me. I reached into my pocket, my fingers trembling as I dialed 911. The dispatcher's voice a calm anchor in the storm of my mind. I need an ambulance and a tow truck at 42 Oak Lane immediately, I told them, staring straight into Mrs. Gable's cold, unblinking eyes. My neighbor has blocked my exit during a medical emergency and is refusing to move. Mrs. Gable let out a sharp, jagged laugh, the kind that makes your skin crawl. Stop being so dramatic, scuffed, leaning against her doorframe. The police won't do anything to me. I pay more in property taxes than you make in a year. Call whoever you want, but I'm not moving that car until I'm finished with my tea. She slammed the door in my face. The sound of the deadbolt clicking into place felt like a physical blow to my chest. I slumped against her porch railing, the scent of her expensive jasmine bushes suddenly making me nauseous. I could hear the distant wail of a siren, a thin ribbon of hope cutting through the suffocating silence of the night. But the ambulance wouldn't be able to get close enough. Not with her tank of an SUV wedged perfectly between the narrow stone pillars of my driveway entrance. Minutes felt like hours. The red and blue lights finally crested the hill, splashing against the dark windows of the neighborhood like a neon fever dream. 2 officers hopped out, their heavy belts clinking with a rhythmic, metallic authority. One ran toward my car to assist Lily, who was now being treated by paramedics who had jumped the curb with their kits, while the other, a tall officer with a jawline made of granite, walked toward me. Is that the vehicle? Jeff? Pointing to the SUV. I whispered, my voice exhausted. She refused to move. She said her tea was more important. The officer's expression shifted from professional concern to a simmering, quiet fury. He didn't knock on Mrs. Gable's door, he pounded. When she finally opened it, Her smug smile vanished the moment she saw the badge. She started to ramble, her voice rising in a frantic, high-pitched pitch about her rights and her husband's connections. But the officer wasn't having it. "You are obstructing a medical emergency and a public roadway," he barked, his voice echoing like a gunshot. "Move the vehicle now or face the consequences." "I'm not putting on shoes for this," she shrieked, her face turning a mottled purple that matched her robe. "You can't talk to me like that. Do you know who I am?" The officer didn't answer. Instead, he looked over his shoulder at the flatbed tow truck that had just pulled up, its yellow lights rotating in a dizzying blur. "Hook it up," he commanded. "And hook it up fast." The sound of the chains clanking against the undercarriage of Mrs. Gable's precious SUV was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. The metal groaned and protested as the winch began to pull, the tires screeching against the pavement in a desperate, failed grip. Mrs. Gable lunged off her porch, screaming like a banshee, her silk slippers slipping on the wet grass. "Stop. That's a $100,000 car. You're damaging the transmission," she wailed, reaching for the officer's arm. That was her final mistake. The moment her hand made contact with his sleeve, the atmosphere changed. In one swift, blurred motion, the officer spun her around, her face pressed against the cold brick of her own home. The metallic click-clack of handcuffs snapping shut was sharp and final. "You are under arrest for felony obstruction of an emergency service and resisting an officer," he said, his voice dropping to a terrifyingly calm whisper. As they led her toward the patrol car, her hair disheveled and her dignity lying in the dirt like a discarded wrapper, she caught my eye. For the first time, the ice in her gaze was replaced by a flickering, pathetic fear. She looked at me, her mouth hanging open, waiting for me to say something, to beg for mercy on her behalf. Perhaps. I just watched as the paramedics loaded Lily, now breathing steadily thanks to a fast-acting nebulizer, into the ambulance. I looked back at Mrs. Gable, took a deep breath of the crisp night air, and felt a wave of cold, hard justice wash over me. "I hope the tea was worth it," I said quietly. The patrol car door slammed shut with a heavy, muffled thud, silencing her protests. As the tow truck hauled her SUV away, the driveway was finally clear. The path opened for the ambulance to roar toward the hospital. The neighborhood fell silent again, but the air felt lighter, purged of the toxicity that had lingered for so long. Karma doesn't always come with a warning, but when it arrives, it demands full payment. In the end, no amount of status or property taxes can shield a person from the consequences of their own cruelty. We live in a world where we must look out for one another, and those who choose to block the path of a person in need will eventually find themselves with nowhere left to run. Justice might be slow, but when it's served, it's a dish best enjoyed in the clear, quiet light of a new day.